Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on something, well, pretty crucial for anyone building their English skills: vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, staring down endless lists of words, it can feel like a real slog sometimes.
It really can. Yeah, a lot of learners get stuck on this kind of treadmill, memorizing, but it doesn't always, translate into actually using the language confidently.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack some really effective strategies, things that actually work for vocabulary growth.
Right.
We're going to look at how native speakers naturally pick up words and also what methods have some solid research backing them up.
Yeah, the idea is to move beyond just like cramming words into your head,
Yeah,
finding smarter ways, more natural ways.
definitely. And we're drawing on some fascinating material for this. There's a written piece we looked at that really dives into how we learn vocabulary early on in English.
It does, yeah. It compares it to how we learn our first language
Hmm.
and sort of analyzes different teaching techniques. It's quite revealing.
Which leads us to something pretty surprising, actually, right off the bat. Get this. Native English-speaking kids. They typically know around 5,000 words by the time they even start kindergarten.
5,000, that's incredible.
Isn't it? And then they just soak up thousands more every year, basically just by hearing them used around them.
Wow.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can, new English learners tap into some of that same natural learning power?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we replicate some of that magic?
Okay, let's unpack this. Maybe we should start with the method most of us have probably encountered at some point: rote memorization. The good old word lists and flashcards.
Ah, yes, the traditional approach. Now, the material we looked at, it does acknowledge they have some appeal, on the surface anyway.
Right, like what's the good side?
Well, they give you clear targets, right? You know exactly which words you're supposed to learn.
Okay.
And ticking those words off a list, it can give you a sense of, like, immediate progress. Look, I learned 10 words today, which feels good.
Yeah, I get that. Feels productive.
And it's simple to use, basically. List, definition, try to remember.
Seems straightforward enough. But, and here's where it gets interesting, our source material really digs into the downsides, and it's quite revealing.
It is. A big point it makes is that vocabulary taught this way, just isolated lists, it's often done without much thought to how words actually work in real language.
So no context.
Exactly, no context. And without that, those words are surprisingly hard to actually make stick in your memory. That lack of context is just crucial. The words just float there alone. You might maybe recall a definition, but you don't really get how the word behaves in a sentence.
Right, like how it connects with other words or the different sort of shades of meaning it might have.
Precisely. Linguistics research backs this up again and again. Context is king in language acquisition.
So learners end up pouring all this time and energy into hammering these lists,
Mm-hmm.
only to find the words just slip away pretty quickly.
That's often what happens.
Yeah.
The source even calls it potentially boring and draining.
Which I think anyone who's tried it can relate to. It can totally kill your motivation.
Absolutely. So while those lists might give you this illusion of moving forward, they're really not enough on their own.
Okay.
Our material really highlights that absence of a sentence or a story wrapped around the words.
So the meaning's unclear and how to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which leads to that rapid forgetting. And you don't really learn how to apply it in the real world. You might be able to parrot a definition back.
Yeah.
But can you actually use that word confidently when you're speaking or writing? That's the real test, isn't it?
Totally. So, okay, if just memorizing lists isn't the magic answer, how do native English speakers build these huge vocabularies then? Let's shift to that natural process.
Yeah, the contrast is really quite striking. Native English-speaking kids, they generally aren't sitting down with vocabulary lists. Not at all.
So how does it happen?
Their word knowledge just sort of develops organically. It happens through hearing words in genuine, everyday situations. Right from birth, basically.
Just by being surrounded by language.
Pretty much. Think about it. Babies, toddlers, they hear language all around them. Our source material mentions how kids imitate the speech. They hear parents, caregivers.
Ah, imitation.
And that imitation is a huge factor in picking up those early words.
And it's not just random sounds, right? Parents help.
Oh, definitely. Parents often repeat words, maybe while pointing at something.
Like, look, doggy.
Exactly. Or telling a simple story. That gives immediate context. So kids naturally learn the names of things, dog, cup, ball, through these repeated interactions and seeing the actual object.
Okay, that makes sense for concrete things. What about later?
Well, later on, as kids start learning to read, the source really emphasizes the massive role that books and conversations play.
Reading, yeah. I've heard that's huge.
It is. It even points to research suggesting a huge chunk of vocabulary comes just from reading. And one of the best ways to boost a kid's vocabulary is simply encouraging them to read widely.
So they're just encountering words naturally in stories.
Right. And even in school, for native speakers, when new vocabulary is introduced, it's often within sentences or maybe with pictures.
Ah, so still providing context, not just a list.
Exactly. Always reinforcing that link between the word, its meaning, and how it's used, not just a detached definition.
Okay. So summing up the native speaker way, it's gradual, it's kind of incidental,
Mm-hmm.
happens naturally through listening, talking, reading, always in a meaningful context, not deliberate, isolated memorization.
You got it. That's the core difference.
Okay, understanding that naturally leads to the question, how can English learners, leverage these same principles? What does the research say about effective methods we can actually use?
Right. And the core message from all the research is pretty clear. Actively engaging with language in meaningful ways is just way more effective than rote learning alone.
Makes sense.
So one of the absolute top recommendations is to learn in context.
Which clicks perfectly with the native speaker thing, doesn't it? Seeing words and sentences in stories as you read or listen.
Exactly. It gives you clues. Your brain starts making connections. You might not know the precise definition right away, but you can often get a really good sense of the meaning from the words around it, the whole situation.
Like guessing from context.
Yeah, and the research strongly supports this. Our material says contextual learning through both reading and listening is basically the main way we expand our vocabulary.
So even flashcards are better with sentences.
Definitely. The source mentions that flashcards that include a simple example sentence, much more effective than just the word and definition alone. It provides that little bit of context.
Okay, context is key. What else works well?
Another really powerful method is extensive reading.
Extensive reading. So not like intensely studying difficult texts.
No, exactly the opposite. It's about reading a large volume of stuff that you find relatively easy and crucially enjoyable.
Like what kind of stuff?
Think graded readers, simple novels, maybe even comics or magazines on topics you like. Things you can read fairly smoothly without stopping every 2 seconds for a dictionary.
Ah, okay. So the enjoyment factor is important.
Hugely important. And research backs this up too. Studies show this kind of extensive reading at your own comfortable level leads to really significant gains in vocabulary.
Why? Just because you see words more often?
Partly that, yeah. You encounter words repeatedly, naturally. But also, because the material is engaging, you're more likely to pay attention and remember them. The advice is simple. Make it fun. Pick stuff that interests you. Even just reading a few pages every day makes a real difference.
Okay, read enjoyable stuff. Got it.
Now, you mentioned something earlier. Spaced repetition. Sounds a bit technical.
It sounds technical, but the idea is actually really simple and powerful. It taps into how our memory naturally works.
How so?
Well, spaced repetition is all about timing your review of new words. Instead of cramming them all in one go,
You revisit words at increasing intervals. So maybe you see a word today, then review it again tomorrow. Then maybe in 3 days, then a week, and so on.
so the gap gets bigger each time.
Exactly. Flat card apps like Anki or Quizlet often have this built right in. They manage the schedule for you.
And this actually works.
Oh, yeah. Research shows that even just a few minutes of daily spaced review can massively boost long-term retention, like potentially tripling how much you remember.
Wow. Okay. So the practical tip is small batches, review regularly, but space it out.
That's the essence of it. Study a small set, then revisit them at those expanding intervals to really lock them into your long-term memory.
Okay, context, reading, spaced repetition. What else? Just seeing the words isn't enough, right?
Absolutely not. Our source really stresses the importance of practice and use. You've got to actively do something with the new words.
Use it or lose it, basically.
Kinda, yeah. Trying to use a new word soon after you learn it, that really helps cement it.
Like what kind of practice?
Oh, lots of ways. Write your own sentences using the word. Say it out loud, maybe in different sentences. Try to weave it into a little story you make up.
Oh, okay.
The key is giving your brain multiple chances to retrieve and actually use the word. That's what builds strong memory pathways.
So like writing them in a notebook helps.
It can, especially if you then make a conscious effort to use those words later. Maybe in comments you leave online, or texts to friends, or actual conversations.
Even trying to explain the word to someone else.
That's a great one. Or playing word games. Anything that forces you to actively recall and manipulate the word.
Okay, active use is critical. Got it.
What about like just watching TV or listening to music?
Ah, yes. Incidental learning from media. That's another great point from the source. It makes learning feel less like a chore.
How does that work?
Well, just incorporating English media you actually enjoy. Could be cartoons, kids' songs are surprisingly good for beginners, educational games.
It exposes you to vocabulary in a really natural, often visual or auditory context. The source suggests if you hear or see a word you don't know, just pause quickly and look it up.
So the context of the show or song helps it stick.
Exactly. It adds variety, context, makes it more engaging, more memorable.
It's really worth saying, again, like you mentioned, our source emphasizes all these methods: context, extensive reading, spaced repetition, practice, media. They all have research behind them.
Absolutely. It mentions meta-analyses on extensive reading, specific experiments on spaced repetition, the proven techniques.
And the big takeaway is that combining these approaches is just much, much more effective than only relying on trying to memorize lists.
Definitely. It's about building a richer, more connected web of knowledge, not just isolated facts.
Okay, so this is all great info. But for you, the listener, maybe you're juggling a busy life, just starting out. What are some really concrete, actionable strategies you can start using right away, like practical steps?
Yeah, let's break it down into some really practical tips. Things you can do without feeling totally overwhelmed. First off, read things you genuinely enjoy.
We keep coming back to that, don't we?
Because it works. Choose short, interesting stories, graded readers at your level. Seriously, even setting aside just 5 or 10 minutes each day for enjoyable reading exposes you to so much vocabulary and context.
Okay, find fun reading material. Check. What about flashcards? Ditch them completely.
Not necessarily, but use flashcards strategically.
Eh?
Forget trying to cram like 50 words a day. That's just not sustainable.
So aim lower.
Yeah, focus on a smaller number, maybe 5 to 10 new words daily, and really lean into that space review we talked about. Revisit them regularly.
And put sentences on them.
Absolutely. Or even a picture if it helps. Make it more than just the word and a definition. Give your brain more hooks.
What else?
Another really good one. Keep a vocabulary notebook.
Like just a list.
Not just a list. Write the new word, its meaning, but crucially, write a sample sentence that you create yourself.
Ah, the active part again.
Exactly. And then review the notebook sometimes, cover up the meanings, try to recall them from your sentences. That writing and recalling process really helps.
I like this next one. It's simple but clever. Label your environment.
Isn't it great? Grab some sticky notes, put them on everyday things around your house. Window, chair, kettle, mirror.
So you just see the words all the time.
Yeah. It's a constant, gentle visual reminder. It directly connects the English word with the actual thing. Super simple, surprisingly effective.
Love it. Okay, what else? Make it fun.
Definitely. Play and have fun. Don't underestimate this.
Yep.
Use English word games, crosswords, word searches, whatever you like. Try language apps that feel like games.
Gamification, right.
Yeah. Even watching kids' songs or simple cartoons on YouTube can be a light, fun way to hear new words. Maybe give yourself mini quizzes. Keep it light and motivating.
And maybe don't try to study for hours at a time.
Good point. The source recommends learning in short bursts instead of one epic, long study session where you just get tired. Break down maybe 15, 20 minutes here, 15, 20 minutes there throughout the day. Shorter, focused sessions often lead to better absorption. Your brain processes it better.
Okay, short bursts. And finally, you mentioned this before, but it seems critical.
Absolutely key. Speak and write a lot. You have to use the words.
Don't just learn them passively.
Exactly. Don't be afraid. Use the new words you're learning in conversations, even simple ones. Try writing short journal entries, little posts online, messages to friends using your new vocab.
Get it out there.
Yes. That active use, that retrieval practice, is what moves words from "I kind of recognize that" to "I know this word and I can use it."
Okay. So if we bring this all together, the main message seems clear. Building English vocabulary effectively. It's not really about that endless, tedious memorization, is it?
Not primarily, no. It's much more about actively engaging with the language.
Yeah.
Meaningful ways, enjoyable ways, a lot like how native speakers naturally learn when they're young.
Yeah.
Consistent, small steps. Using a variety of these methods, reading things you like, using words actively, maybe some smart flashcard use that leads to steady, lasting progress over time.
It's okay to forget things, right? That's part of it.
Oh, totally normal, especially at first. Don't get discouraged if words don't stick immediately. The key is that regular review, the spaced repetition, and consistent practice.
That's what moves words from short-term to long-term memory.
Exactly. That's the process.
So maybe a final thought for you listening right now. This raises a really important point, perhaps. Think about just one small, maybe even enjoyable way you could start bringing more of this contextual English learning into your daily routine. What's one little thing you could try, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, that moves you beyond just the word list? Something that lets you engage with English a bit more naturally, more effectively. Worth considering, right?